to take this back to Bitcoin and the internet, there again, this cohort of Bitcoin maximalists that believe by facilitating internet communications through Bitcoin that you can actually uh, gain or import the immutability and the unstoppability and the irreversibility of Bitcoin into communication protocols. So one of the amazing things about Bitcoin is that, well, first of all, these are the two things that make it like incorruptible or very solid. One is it's a fixed supply asset. So it has a total supply of 21 million that will never change. Again, the reasons behind that are a bit more complex. We could go into proof of work mining, social consensus, etc. I would encourage people to read the book The Bitcoin Standard by Saifedean. First 2/3 of the book are just an introduction to monetary history. Last third of the book explains why Bitcoin is such a profound innovation in terms of money. And then the second part of Bitcoin that makes it what I would call incorruptible. So one is an unchangeable money supply, and two is unstoppable and irreversible transactions. It cannot be censored, right? It's an uncensorable network, both in the present and in the past, right? You can't alter the historical record of transactions, nor can you stop current transactions. In those transactions, which are monetary, they have monetary value, right? You can write information into those transactions. So the theory is that we can re-architect the internet on Bitcoin and create an unstoppable freedom of speech network, like the internet 2.0, or a lot of people call it Web 5. That's what the current name is in Bitcoin, is this decentralized Bitcoin-based internet that no one can stop, including governments or anyone else. And so that would be the hopeful vision. I'm sorry that I didn't answer your question perfectly, which is like, how can we fully trust this thing? That's a very deep and nuanced question, but I hope I'm giving you kind of the broad strokes of what Bitcoin's much more than money, you might say. I mean, it depends how you define money, which is obviously one of my favorite things to do, is try to define it. But there's this great hope for it actually completing the internet philosophically, right? When the internet first emerged, people were very excited. This is going to democratize everything. Now everyone has a voice. You can create communication networks and websites and things without permission. It's a peer-to-peer free market dynamic. And that was true to some extent, but we've seen a lot of consolidation at the application layer, right? We have these data monopolies like Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, Google, etc., right? These have been tremendously valuable companies, but they've accumulated so much, well, information, which is basically translatable to political power, that they've become arms of the US government, right? Google and Facebook, they work for the fucking central government at this point, and that's just how it is. So what's the antidote to all of that? An actual internet that cannot be censored, corrupted, nor stopped by anyone, period, right? We get a communications layer that has the integrity and immutability of the laws of physics themselves. And so we're not there yet, but there is a lot of strong argument that we are headed that direction with Bitcoin.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. And I think the sentiment here, like, would be similar, I think, in the States as it is in Australia. There's this sort of community of free thinkers and people that want to kind of break away and have less government involvement and more autonomy and all those sorts of things, are kind of saying we need to keep cash. We need to stay away from CBDCs and all these sorts of things. However, I watched both speeches from Robert Kennedy Jr. and from Donald Trump at the Bitcoin conference. They were markedly different in terms of their types of their style and their content, but the tone was the same, was that there was a government applaud or in a embodiment of Bitcoin and digital currency. And so it seems like the writing is on the wall, and we need to embrace this new technology. And I think that the confusion does lie in, like you when you don't know enough information, you tend
Yeah.
to respond in a way that is kind of like, I'm just going to opt out because I don't know enough. And it's that sort of
Yes.
buyer
Yeah.
beware type of thing.
Yes.
So I think we can go down many rabbit holes or many tangents in terms of energy and you know, all those sorts of things, which may have an influence, or maybe governmental control, which could potentially put a spanner in the works. But what I like about you and about your philosophies in your teaching is, and I feel like there is an uprising of people that just want to have less government control and more autonomy. And if we can collectively band together, utilizing something like Bitcoin to enable everyone to have that kind of, we're sort of leveling the playing field, so to speak. You know, we're not having these technocracies and these larger companies which own 80% of all the big business in the world, the BlackRocks and the Vanguards and the State Streets and all that kind of stuff. For too long, we've kind of just been swallowed up into this, you know, society of like, there's a limitation on my success. All right, there's a ceiling, and I think what Bitcoin and digital currency offers, or cryptocurrency offers, is unlimited. It's a endless ceiling, you know, that never stops, and that to me is fucking like so desirable and something that I'm drawn towards in many ways. So, you know, I get all of that side of things.
Yeah, that's beautifully said. Yeah, the limitations of what Bitcoin, it's so interesting. It's like the limit is almost human ingenuity itself, because we're just maximizing human freedom with something like Bitcoin, right? You're just making it such that, well, and it's paradoxical again. It's paradoxical. There's this extreme form of self-constraint that's sort of engineered into Bitcoin, right? That it's a very strong form of private property. So it makes stealing an unprofitable activity, right? It's just not worth your time. You can't, and you can think about this at any level, right? If you custody Bitcoin properly, you can't physically take it from someone, because say they've stored it in what's called a multi-key solution. So they've chopped the information into multiple pieces and distributed it geographically. So the password, which is the private key, is now chopped into 5 pieces and it's in 5 different cities. And you could even, you know, torture this guy and you're not going to get his Bitcoin. You could also think about this at the geopolitical scale, right? If at some point a nation state is holding reserves in Bitcoin, they get invaded by another country. Well, that country just spent a lot of money invading them, but it didn't get anything at the end, right? There was no profit. You're taking the profit motive out of war, out of violence, out of coercion, and you're putting more of a profit motive into entrepreneurship. And so the implications of that on how humans socially organize themselves are simply mind-blowing, right? We don't really know how big of a deal this thing is. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, click here to find more just like it, and here to find our most recent episode. Also, make sure to like this video to help shine light on the corruption of money, and be sure to subscribe to this channel to stay connected.